My name's Claire. I started working for Zen's right when everything first started in 2012. I would have been hanging out with Zeke and Fernando as one of the first employees. By the time I left the business, I was what we would call a market manager. One of my favorite things about working at Zen's Tea House was, the personalities of the people you would meet when we were just kind of hanging out packing tea together was one thing, but especially with the company starting in LA, doing all the different markets in the area, it kind of allowed you to just be dropped in all of these different microcosms of LA, so you'd get to experience all the different cultures and all the different walks of life. And some people would kind of already know about the power of tea, but they wouldn't know about the power of herbs, or sometimes vice versa, so you got to educate a lot of people about what tea can do. Temple City was interesting. There's a pretty heavy Asian population, and it was always kind of funny that was the market we couldn't do very well in, because when you have a lot of Asian people and you have Asian herbs and a little white girl trying to sell them, it doesn't always work out very well. I remember doing that, going out to Redondo Beach. I actually am fluent in French, and there were a few people that came up talking to each other in French, thinking that no one could understand them, and they were going to walk by our booth until I started in French, and then I didn't make a sale, but I did get to talk to some people at least.
Sounds like the French.
Yeah, very much like the French. Being able to correctly or accurately match the needs of a customer with something that tea can help them with was definitely a big thing, especially when we first started out. We were really the only tea or herb vendor at any of these markets, so there were a lot of people that were like, where's your parsley? Where you're selling spices, and that's not what we were doing. You'd have people that were a little bit skeptical about the idea that, say, rooibos could help with pain or chronic issues that way, but then they'd try some and come back the next week and buy a whole big bag because it ended up helping them. Even after I left Zen's, I've always been coming back to the markets and the warehouse to pick up my own stock of tea. It's all I have in my cabinet unless someone's gifted me something in a bag and I just, oh, thank you. There were a couple of years where I would come back and make sure all of my Christmas presents for my coworkers, wherever I was working at the time, were the rooibos packs and the holy detox, and everyone always used to remember me for that. I'd always kind of have a sense of pride whenever I'd walk by the booth at whatever my farmer's market was at the time, especially now that it's where my local market is. I can't stop telling people about tea. If anyone ever wants a tea recommendation, I still have business cards and brochures that I'm just ready to hand out. I like that I still have this connection with the business, even though it's been so long since I've been formally employed here. I think one of the most amazing things about the power of tea is the variety of different kind of ailments that it can help with, even as simple as rooibos for chronic pain or holy detox for helping kind of relax and decompress at the end of the day. I remember one of the first blends that we kind of made up ourselves while I was with the company was Dr. Jen's blend, and it was something that people at our markets were asking for because they wanted help with period pain, kind of women's reproductive issues. And then shortly after I ended up leaving the company, I found out that I had endometriosis. I was so plagued with it to the point where I wouldn't even be able to walk at times. So I couldn't get out of my own home to get myself the kind of help I needed. So I would have to make a big old pot, a French press, of Dr. Jen's blend and have a few cups, and then I'd finally be able to walk so I could go get myself the help I needed. I don't know what I would have done without that blend. I still use it today. A lot of the more, the kind of funnier memories are the ones that come to mind and pop up in my mind at random times. A lot of them have to do with Zeke, who was one of the first founders here and kind of one of the herbalist minds of the company. I remember doing some markets with him and traveling with him to get to the markets and what have you. We were driving to the Long Beach market at the time, and we had to make a turn on Channel. But because I speak French, Zeke really thought it was Chanel and kept adamantly being like, yes, we have to make a left turn on Chanel. And I'm looking at the sign like, it says Channel. What are you talking about, man? Or because we were one of the first herb or tea vendors at any of these markets, there were a couple of times where people would come up and look at the booth and go, "Whoa, look at all this herb." And Zeke wouldn't miss a beat, and he'd go, "Yeah, we got red herb and we got yellow herb," and just like play into it. So a lot of just like the personality that you would get from not only the Zen's Tea House market people, but a lot of the other vendors too, just had that really like big personality, and you couldn't help but just laugh. And I still remember all of those memories all this time later. Fernando had just kind of been discharged from the Navy and was kind of getting used to civilian life again. And Zeke was coming out of working in a health food shop, like handling all herbs, kind of a similar job to what he ended up doing with Zen's. But I just very much remember that Zeke was kind of like the personality and the face, and that was going to be who was going to be going to all the markets and doing all the selling and teaching people how to do the same thing he did. But Fernando, there were a couple of times where I remember he was just kind of sitting in the back of some of our workers being like, "All right, Zeke, you go handle all the personality stuff. I just want to be back here running the business, and nobody has to know who I am behind the scenes." So it's kind of amusing to me now that Fernando's kind of come into that, and it just shows how much they've grown as people and grown with the business and outside of the business as well. A lot of kind of actually growing the business came from, we had some solid products that we knew were winners, like our pomegranate tea that we always have here. The rooibos is really important, the Holy Detox, and even some of the blends that we've created ourselves, like Zeke's blend, which is a piece of history. Some of those we didn't always have. We started out with just a few, and then as our profits grew, we realized, hey, we have some more room to bring in some new things, to make the Dr. Jen's blend that was being requested of us, to source lavender from France to add to our different blends, just to increase the quality so much more. I remember when we were not experimenting with, but thinking about bringing kava kava onto the tea team, if you will. We had an idea of what the effects of kava kava were supposed to be, but I remember brewing a cup of it sitting in Fernando's living room with Zeke and Fernando, and we all had a cup, and we knew it was supposed to make us sleepy. So I remember being like, okay, I'm gonna chug the cup of kava kava and go home as quickly as I can so it doesn't hit me while I'm driving. I believe we all had really good night's sleep that night, but it was just a fun memory to, okay, let's see what this does. Let's see if we can give this to our customers as something that really does work, because we've tested everything. So that was fun too. And it's amusing to me to come back and to see some of these things still on the shelves. The French lavender is still here being added to blends. The kava kava is still available. And darn it all, I left right before the golden milk came out. So that's still a fun thing for me to point out and be like, I didn't help with that, but I'm glad they're doing it.
Hi, my name is Sydney. And I'm Stephanie. And we're from Zen's Tea House. And today we're going to show you how to make our top 3 teas. Hey guys, so I'm going to go ahead and show you how to make our #1 seller, which is our golden milk. The powder consists of turmeric, ginger, cinnamon. Typically we add into vanilla almond milk, but you can go ahead and use whatever milk of your choice, whether it be dairy or non-dairy.